Hi, it's Brendon, the Technology Concierge. Today I'm joined by Michael Cohen. Also, his nickname he was recently given is Metaverse Mike. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the metaverse, but just to quickly introduce Michael, he is a consultant. More importantly, he's a strategic advisor. He's been working in the hospitality industry for a number of years, helping companies with business development and startup. And today, when we're actually recording this, he's just been announced as a strategic advisor for a company called RendeVerse, who are a metaverse company. He's also an advisor to the Tisch Hospitality School at NYU. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Brendon. How are you? It's really, really good to reconnect with you. You are one of my favorites in the industry, so I appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Michael. So the metaverse, everybody says, well, it depends what you read, but it is the next big thing, as far as technology goes. It's going to revolutionize the way we work, the way we play. And effectively, people are saying it is the next version of the internet. Can you help us sort of quickly understand, we're hoteliers, we're in the hospitality business, not the technology business. So what is the metaverse?
Sure. So it is, very importantly, a collective term for the current and future immersive form of the internet. The word that you're going to hear permeating this conversation many, many times is immersive.
Yes.
So, the internet originally, as you remember, because you're way older than me, was all about data flowing in secure and optimized networks all across the world, across university campuses originally, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Then there was the first paradigm shift and really transitioned everything was World Wide Web. So it became a graphical, visual medium in some respects.
Yep.
Now the next paradigm shift, which is massive, is the immersive internet. So the metaverse incorporates virtual reality. So people see this all the time and they go, that's Buck Rogers, or that's expensive, or do I need one? All these things are fair points, and I'll discuss that today.
Yep.
Secondarily, so that's the virtual reality component of the metaverse. There are other components of the metaverse is very important that is not always discussed in as much detail in regards to the metaverse is augmented reality, which is a layer of data and content that is overlaid on the physical world. So you have the fully immersive virtual reality component of the metaverse, and then you have the overlay of content, data, impact over the physical world.
Yep.
That is what the metaverse is all about.
That is a fantastic explanation. Well, now, we obviously have virtual reality now. We have obviously games like Fortnite. But I understand people like NASA have been using obviously virtual reality and to some extent augmented reality to do repairs on the space shuttle. So that's what you're talking about. Somebody having glasses on and then having blueprints or a manual overlaid whilst they're doing the repairs.
That's a really good entry point, okay? Because that's what you just did. You did an entry point into the metaverse and you talked about remote work, meaning like I'm remotely interacting. I have data that's being provided in a HUD, like a heads-up display type environment within, either augmented reality glasses, which if I'm looking at a physical, I'm fixing the boiler of the Marriott Marquis in Times Square.
Yep. And
I'm the new engineer, and the previous engineer was there for 26 years, and he or she retired.
Yep.
And they know all the secrets of that boiler.
It's in their head.
With augmented reality as part of this extension of the metaverse, there's an ability to place information, info cards around the boiler of the Marriott Marquis Times Square in sub-basement, and only using a PIN code and a pair of augmented reality glasses or the supercomputer in the hands of everyone.
Yep.
I can actually scan over and see all the instructions, how to fix the boiler. They're not physically there on the wall. They're not physically on the boiler, but only I get to see them because I can pop in my PIN code and augmented reality. I look through my third eye, if you know what I'm getting at, my other visual medium, and I'm looking through this and I'm seeing the content. That is an extension of the metaverse, in my opinion. That's augmented reality, an overlay on the physical world.
And that's an absolutely fantastic example, because you're 100% correct. There is so much knowledge in a chief engineer's head, and it often goes with them when they retire.
And staffing. I mean, like, Brendon, we can get into the usual conversations in our industry about staffing issues and all the things that all, right. But I mean, our clients, our relationships, our partners, our friends, we're all dealing with many of these things. So what's interesting is, I know we're kind of jumping right into it, which is perfectly awesome. What's important is the metaverse is not just about hype. It's not just even about interaction. It's not about marketing. It's about all those things. In our industry, any execution or use case of the metaverse has to successfully traverse through a filter of 3 areas. It has to provide utility. It needs to drive engagement. That could be front of the house with guests, or it could be back of the house with staff. And the third thing, it has to drive loyalty. Now, logically, okay, loyalty with guests. How about loyalty with your staff? If you're making it easier to onboard a staff person, if you're making their job a little more seamless, making them have more confidence, then that's a retention strategy. That's an HR retention strategy that certain components of the metaverse and augmented reality and virtual reality can enable in a hospitality environment and travel company environment. Obviously, there's many implementations. I'll talk about some today in regards to, again, utility, engagement, and loyalty from the guest perspective. And some of those you can probably, in your own mind, we're all experts in this industry for so many years. There's some obvious linkages and obvious areas where utility, engagement, and loyalty are really driven strongly by the metaverse.
That's fantastic. I love that. That's such a succinct way to define, how the metaverse should actually impact a business, and particularly hospitality. So what would be some examples then of use cases probably?
Yeah, so let's talk about the front of the house for a second. Okay, so a guest, or from the guest perspective. The metaverse is ideal for experiential marketing. Pre-experiential marketing. Okay, travel and hospitality is all about the experience.
Yes.
We, as consumers, as guests, we are choosing where we're going to invest our dollars, in what experiences we want to hopefully experience or achieve. The metaverse, either in a virtual reality environment where people are pre-experiencing, they're pre-analyzing this property versus that property. They're saying, do we really want to take that tour? Is Ecuador really an interesting country, etc.? So a really strong use case is there is metaverse virtual reality content where now people can actually collaborate and share in their pre-experiences. You can actually get your family together and have a light pre-experience of, this is what it's like at Harry Potter World at Universal versus this is what it's going to be like at SeaWorld potentially. And you make decisions. You vote with your eyes instead of your feet. And that's one real world. So that's pre-experiential marketing.
The ultimate try before you buy, sort of.
It's very elegantly put. It's a try before you buy scenario that has an immersive experience. So it is digital marketing. It is all those things that, huge investments by the brands and resorts, et cetera. They should do. It's competitive market. So that's a wonderful, very linear, clear return on investment implementation for the metaverse on the guest side using virtual reality. In augmented reality on the guest side of the equation in travel and hospitality, there's the ability to create geolocated augmented reality activations. So that means I'm walking down, I'm on Bondi Beach in Sydney, and I have a choice. Do I go to this bar? Do I go to this restaurant? Do I go to this club? Do I go to this hotel? Well, while I'm walking around, there's a large sign that says, put your supercomputer in your hand and point it to this QR code. Because as we all know, the pandemic has revitalized QR codes. QR codes are back.
Yep.
So I put my phone up against this QR code, and suddenly this whole augmented reality activation, marketing activation, product activation, demo activation is occurring in front of me 500 meters or 50 meters away from the actual location that's being marketed to me or being introduced to me. I now have a reason to perhaps make a decision to be a client of that establishment or that hotel or that restaurant versus others. So that's geolocated augmented reality activations.
Wow.
And those can include videos, they can include 3D objects, they can include, you can go down the rabbit hole where there'll be like a web page inside and you go through and you see an immersive world where you're actually walking around. Within the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see tourists walking around sidewalks, around tourist areas, experiencing something. They're going to be but they're going to be in their phone, but it's going to look like I'm in a spatial environment, audio, spatial visual experience in this. And don't forget, turn left because that's where this entity is, etc. So that's a clear example of augmented reality as a guest marketing differentiated type opportunity. The last thing that's interesting in regards to the guest side is even within the actual property itself or the hotel itself, static murals, photos, paintings, all kinds of content in the guest room. I will walk in the guest room. Brendon, you will be working on implementations in 2 to 3 years where clients are going to say, Brendon, find me the great stuff because I want to put an augmented reality overlay on the entire guest room. So when the guest walks in the guest room, they're going to say, oh, that's how this IPTV, whatever, this casting works. Oh, that's how the guest room management system works. I see, because now I can, so it's overlay of information, marketing content. Hey, join the VIP program. Oh, there's a 3D rendering of the hamburger from the F&B menu. All going to be activated via symbols and QR codes that are embedded in different areas of the guest room.
Wow. And Michael, you've obviously said that the guest will be using their phone. You see us using the phone rather than sort of glasses of some description?
I see both. The reality is that there will always be a more intense experience, potentially, more convenient, wearing glasses versus walking around with a phone, okay? So in my opinion, the phone will be for transactional interactions like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Whereas the glasses will be, that is 5 years away. That's where there'll be this, Google's already working on it. Many others are working on it. Our industry will be plugging in content to these ecosystems, these augmented reality overlay ecosystems that are already be in New York City or Sydney or Toronto or Tokyo. And the content will be plugged in by our clients and people we know in the industry who are the brands, who are the ownership groups, etc. That is where 5 years from now, the option of having your glasses are prescription glasses, and do you want them augmented reality enabled as well? So it'll be X dollars for your prescription glasses, and you'll have the option if you want to make them augmented reality as well. So that's much more convenient, and it's an always on environment, okay? Yes. Whereas what does almost every single person in second world country, first world country for sure, and now, thank goodness, disseminating to all individuals, third world countries. There's a big push, as we know, connectivity, 5G, all those things. True. So the most ubiquitous tool for the augmented reality side of the travel and hospitality implementation of Metaverse is going to be this supercomputer in everyone's hand. Yep. The glasses are going to be for people who decide they want to have a more intense, early adopter type experience.
Yes. And it reminds me then, I suppose, of Google Glass that, came out 4 years ago. They were effectively...
The failure of Google Glass came out 4 years ago, yes.
Well, effectively, it was a product well ahead of its time, in theory, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Adobe, a lot of major companies are making, I'm not even talking about the hardware side, I'm talking about the actual software side to create the activations, to drive all this digital content, this multimedia content that right now all these amazing creative suites are out there for marketing departments and digital engagement departments to create all these activations in the web, in video, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. The next paradigm will be on as an overlay to the real world.
Yep, that's amazing.
So that's an important distinction. Whereas from a VR perspective, from a guest scenario, Brendon, here's what I always say, and I think it's fair.
Yep.
In travel and hospitality, the metaverse has three areas where it's most relevant. Pre-experience, which we talked about.
Yep.
On-premise, which we sort of talked about as well, and post. The post experience. Okay. So the ability to capture content, share content, and then disseminate the content to your loyalty members if you're a brand, to your family members in your own network of connectivity, where you can say, hey guys, we took this high-res content from the beach in Bermuda. Let's all get together. Grandma's in New York City, Aunt Sally's in Chicago, we're in San Francisco, as an example. Let's all meet at X time and get together with our VR headgear, our Oculus headgear, for example, from Meta. And you're all going to enjoy walking around our holiday experience or our travel experience. So this is now the enhanced sharing of the slides.
Yeah, perfect.
Even the obviously high-res images on Apple Photo or Google Photo, whatever. This is now immersive, collaborative, post travel and hospitality experience. So it's pre, present, and post.
Yep. And I could see from a loyalty point of view as well, a brand capturing images of the guest automatically, like similar when you go on a cruise, they like to take lots of photos of you and then actually
100%.
Sell them to you. The brand could do that to create even greater loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, and also the consumer capture devices are also improving over time. Like just as an example, it's a little bit different, but it's relevant. So a 3D object. So now you can, that sounds complex. It's not easy, but the iPhone 13 now has LiDAR built in. So anyone, you and I or grandma, or grandpa, can actually go and take a 3D scan very easily of this amazing historical artifact. And they capture it, and now they can share it with their grandkids, who they'll receive it, and they'll be able to take it from a QR code that grandpa shares in an email and place this 3D object of a cannon in the bedroom of their grandkid. And the kid will be able to walk around this historical artifact that has been captured by their grandparents on their cruise or their tour. So I guess for me, what's important is, and one of the things I love to do, I hope you can tell, is I like to take the tech about the metaverse, virtual reality and augmented reality, and apply it to real world implementations and case studies.
Yep, which is absolutely perfect. And to be honest, Michael, I mean, I've read up a lot about the metaverse, and, it's very rare that you read something where they actually, give you a practical example of how the metaverse, virtual reality and augmented reality can truly play a part in hospitality. So I really appreciate.
I totally agree. And that's why it looks like I'm making a practice or building a practice of trying to, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I just happen to have a pretty good way of articulating things this way. Here's a really interesting, so a company that I've been invited to join as an advisor very recently, which you mentioned, is RendeVerse. And RendeVerse, brilliant company, really interesting technology. It is VR, it's immersive, but what they're enabling, which I think is fabulous, is remote site visits for MICE industry, for the meeting incentives and convention industry. So this is, as we all know, hotels, huge convention hotels, huge convention resorts, fly them in, bring them in, and that's part of the, the blocking and tackling, the competitive environment for acquiring customers for this convention and this corporate gathering, etc. RendeVerse has a tremendous platform, virtual reality platform, where they're already enabling Marriott's and Intercontinentals and other independent owners of major global brands. So
Yep.
they're going from the bottom up. As we know in hospitality technology, it's important to go from the bottom up, build credibility and momentum. And then sometimes the top down once they get involved, if you know what I'm getting at.
Yep.
So what's wonderful about this is you have this 100-year-old industry, the meetings and incentives and conventions industry, which is a 100-year-old industry,
Yep.
which very sophisticated, very lucrative, but this is an incredible innovation that, of course, the pandemic, accelerated, where now the potential buyers can be pre-experiencing and pre-configuring in immersive virtual way the setup or the situation in this conference hotel versus that conference hotel, et cetera. And that is a clear example of where you take the innovation of virtual reality in the metaverse and you implement it in a real world benefit. You fill the gap and add, what did I say before? Utility, engagement, and loyalty. And they're nailing that.
That is amazing. So one of my questions for today was going to be, how far away are we from the metaverse? Well, in our discussion already, we're here, right? In many respects, we're
absolutely. We're here, and it's a choice now.
Yes.
It's a choice that, listen, hospitality, travel and hospitality can be very innovative, but it also can sometimes be conservative, and that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
There's a reason why this industry has survived and thrived for decades. It's because of that intelligent analysis, and sometimes it takes a little longer. You and I both lived the high-speed internet world, and all of us talk about this, whereas at home, I could get X gigabytes, and in the hotel, I could only get Y megabytes for years or whatever. Voice, which you know very well, the voice activation in my goodness, Amazon and Google, the devices are proliferated all over the world.
Yes.
But it's still early days, and it's growing strongly with some major companies, but it's still early days in hospitality. Yeah. This is no different. The one thing that's different about the metaverse, in my opinion, with hospitality is it facilitates marketing and revenue clearly.
Yes.
So in my opinion, it's not leading edge anymore. It's definitely not bleeding edge. It's not leading edge anymore because in the retail environment, in a major sporting environment, augmented reality is off to the races. Major investments, huge brand activations, etc. Virtual reality in training specifically is well off to the races. Yeah. Microsoft and Meta and others have huge contracts with huge enterprise clients. Major consulting firms have bought 1,000, 2,000 headsets. Wow. The huge global management consulting firms, because that's part of the onboarding process right now for all new analysts. They are now required, because it's effective, their onboarding training and interaction is now with a VR headset and a joint remote workroom type environment or a collaboration environment, which is another huge part of all this too. Meeting and incentive, the meeting industry in general for travel and hospitality, the ability to enhance existing product, enhance the guest room, enhance an F&B environment, enhance the meeting space, enhance how you select and configure convention space. That's not replacing anything, because you hear that. And we both, this is going to replace, or they're trying to replace, or this is going to be a negative impact. If it's done correctly, 100%. But if it's done the right way, which is fairly straightforward, it's an enhancement. Because the metaverse in travel and hospitality, and then I'll take a breath, I promise. The metaverse in travel and hospitality has 3 other components. The metaverse can enhance the travel and hospitality experience. The metaverse can enable new extensions, new offerings, new products that are still based upon the physical plant, the physical location, the physical restaurant, the physical experience or physical investment of the brand. Yep. And the third thing is there is metaverse exclusive. That's the stuff that people are mostly hearing about. Worlds, right? Virtual worlds. Sandbox, Decentraland, Citizen M, wonderful job, early mover. Yep. That's a world. That's a metaverse exclusive experience. So, but people have to remember that there's metaverse enabled, metaverse enhanced, and then metaverse exclusive.
Wow. Okay. That's a really great description, because often when we, as I said, read about the metaverse, we only think about the sandbox, the online environment, and we forget about the other two components to it. Yeah, it's impressive. So, Michael, if I'm a hotelier, what should I be doing now? What do you think the next step is?
You should be engaging with people in your organization that have a genuine, healthy interest in the metaverse, in virtual reality and augmented reality. You should canvas your C-suite or your VP suite or your mid-manager group and say to folks, who has an interest in this? Who wants to get involved? And let them do some work. Let them experiment. Let them research. They know the business way better, the internals of the business. They know the general strategies of the brands or of the ownership groups or of the travel companies. They know all the standard operating procedures.
Yep.
They know marketing strategies. They know why the business has been successful. What is the way, why is our brand, organization, ownership group, hospitality company, travel company successful, better, and different? Then you let them get into it. And then you engage, self-servingly, I'm going to say this, with people like me and you.
Yep.
And we bring some knowledge and organized content and an ability to dialogue with these executives and mid-level managers, and then start developing a strategy. Some entities will go all in. They want to make a mark.
Yes.
They're going to be a little more risk on. And some organizations will be a little bit risk off, but they still should be investigating, planning, understanding when it makes sense for them. Because again, the old analogy, the train has left the virtual station. This is not happening. This is happening in travel and hospitality. So people can make choices. They can do it now. They can do it soon. They can do it never. That's perfectly fine. That's their prerogative. I respect that. Priorities are priorities, but to ignore it entirely is not good business.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. That's awesome, Michael. Are there any final thoughts as we sort of close up on this wonderful session regarding the metaverse, way beyond my expectations? I personally have learned so much, and I hope that people watching this...
I'm always available one LinkedIn message away, so we can do this again if you'd like. Yeah, look, I mean, from a summation perspective, again, like any technology, we are hospitality technology folks, our friends, our clients, our partners, our travel and hospitality folks. There needs to be a raison d'etre. There has to be a reason, like any good technology. People need to remember that there is a back of the house or an organizational impact, training and onboarding and efficiencies and optimization within the metaverse, within virtual and augmented reality, et cetera. And that there is a client/guest facing whole array of enhancements, enablements, and exclusive experiences that can and will be deployed and activated over the next 2 to 3 years. So this is a today thing. No one has to panic, but it cannot be ignored. So I'll reiterate again. The one thing I'd say is investigate, invest, prioritize, make sure it aligns with your corporate principles, your general business model, your general marketing strategies, your general, customer or guest retention, your general GSS, like, is it going to help your guest satisfaction scores? Is it going to differentiate, your product from competitive product? That's all traditional business in the travel and hospitality world. It's another important, innovative, impactful tool in the toolkit. Period. Michael,
Thank you so much. I've really appreciated our conversation today, and perhaps we will have a Meta 2.0 discussion in a couple of months' time.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I really appreciate it. And anytime, Brendon, we have a long-standing relationship. I respect what you do. You are the man in Australia and Southeast Asia, and it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Cheers.